Originality. There isn't as much as you think there is. Or is there? Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another opinion piece, discussion point, whatever you want to call it. So, these rumbling thoughts that I had came from the back of a brief exchange that I had with the delightful Joanna on her channel when she did a video on originality. And maybe I didn't bring my point across clearly, I didn't know how to, I couldn't express myself. So it's just the idea of originality, how much is there out there. Now, I am going to, in all likelihood, butcher this topic. I'm not a literary critic expert. My background has got nothing to do with literature, storytelling, writing, anything like that. But there were a couple of things that when I found out about completely blew my mind. And I want to share with you, and maybe you can tell me how wrong am I, or whether you agree, or really just add to the conversation. So, I don't think, when you stop to think about it, that there is that much originality, or perhaps not as much as people think there exists. Right. So, point number one, and maybe I'll leave the link in the description below. Maybe you can go figure out, because it's quite simple. But it's basically the notion of Booker's 7 basic plots. You can really just go to Wikipedia and type 7 basic plots and you get the article. So basically, apparently, throughout history, there are 7 key basic plots in which a lot of stories are based around. So you have the overcoming the monster plot, and that could be just not necessarily a literal monster, but some kind of, antagonist, big enemy, whatever, something like that. Then you've got the rags to riches story, the quest for whatever magic sword, powerful ring, whatever it is, a voyage and return, like, Jason and the Argonauts, your comedy, your tragedy, the Greek tragedies from way back when, and the rebirth story. So those are the 7 key basic plots. So in terms of storytelling, a lot of movies, a lot of books are just retellings of the same story, and maybe perhaps all that changes is the setting. So you can have an overcoming the monster story, which could be something like the movie Predator, or it could be something like maybe Rocky overcoming Ivan Drago. This is basically, at the core, it is the same story. And all that we're changing is the setting. And maybe originality in that sense comes from changing setting or changing protagonist, but not from any meaningful departure from those 7 basic plots as argued and presented by Booker. And these are themes, these are plots that are common to different cultures across history. So that was like one of the first things that really struck at me, and I was like, oh my god, this is actually true. And if you stop to think about it, a lot of stories are just retellings of this. Anyway, what do you think about that? Let me know. The next thing that blew my mind, and that was the first thing I found out when I was reading and I heard about it, is the notion of Campbell's hero's journey. The hero's journey, also called the monomyth. Monomyth is like the single myth, like the one myth all cultures agree on, is the hero's journey. And the hero's journey is basically, you can break it down into more parts, but basically the hero's journey is a 3-part journey. It's our hero sets out on his mission, quest, adventure, whatever. He suffers a setback, he comes back stronger from that, and fulfills his quest, mission, whatever it is. I'll try to find it. I'll try to leave the link in the description below, where basically every single Tom Cruise movie from the 80s was just the hero's journey. There was a comedian that had a sketch about it, and I don't want to butcher it, but I'll leave it there below. So basically, Days of Thunder, Cocktail, The Color of Money, Top Gun, basically all those Tom Cruise movies were exactly the same story, and all that changed was the setting. So not a great deal of originality there. And I know I keep referring to movies, but you can run the same parallels to literature, perhaps. Finally, and this is something I'm not even going to try to describe, because I think there are far better people out there that, it needs a far more detailed review than what I can do here. But it's the notion of the Jungian archetype. So Carl Jung, the psychologist slash psychiatrist, alongside with Freud, the fathers of modern psychology. And it's the idea that there are 12 main archetypes that we all identify immediately and relate, and each one of them has got the sort of defined characteristics. So you've got like the sage, the joker, the hero, the loving, whatever, and every kind of story has got a number of these archetypes present in some way, shape or form. And I found a good video. I will leave the link in the description below from the channel MBTI Origins, which I think she does a really good job of sort of describing and explaining the Jungian archetypes. So then, here's the question. If the 7 basic plots covers most the stories ever told or to be told, if Campbell's hero's journey covers the main monomyth, the main story, the protagonist's journey, and if we have the 12 Jungian archetypes covering the different characters, where is originality coming from? Because these stories have been told again and again and again through the same type of characters many times over. So we don't have no new stories to tell, we haven't got no new characters to create, and we've got no new heroes to make. Everything has been told already many times over. Where does originality come from? And in that sense, I suppose originality can only come from maybe, in my limited capability, can only come from 2 different places. One is from altering the setting. So Star Wars, not greatly original. Luke Skywalker is our monomyth, is the hero's journey, and we have, Master Yoda is one of the Jungian archetypes, so is Darth Vader, we have the overcoming the monster, the basic plots, everything is there. The originality comes from moving it from a traditional pre-medieval, pre-Roman sort of Greek setting to outer space in a multi-planetary convolution of events. But the story is one of the 7 basic plots through the archetypes, through the monomyth. Originality only comes from changing the setting. So maybe someone needs to come out there and just present us with the same basic plots in new settings. And originality can come from there. Quite possibly, it could be argued that another point where originality may come from is from subversion of these established and instantly recognizable plots and archetypes. So maybe someone like George R.R. Martin or Joe Abercrombie come to mind. There's probably a lot more out there that I don't know. I'm not as well read or as fully versed as other people out there. I'm not claiming to be a sage here, but maybe Joe Abercrombie is quite original in that subversion of these, I don't want to call them tropes, but yeah, these archetypes, these stories. The issue with that potentially is that with an author like that, you come to expect the subversion, and maybe it stops being original. Once that's been done, when you pick a Joe Abercrombie book, whenever you see some kind of Jungian archetype there, you know that he's going to twist it and he's going to do something different to what years and books of conditioning have done to your brain, and then you sort of expect the unexpected, and I don't know if that detracts from the originality of the intent or not. Let me know, discuss. And then I suppose finally the one more thing that could be mentioned on this originality concept Joanna talked about an author's voice. So two different authors could tell the same story, but their writing styles may make it different. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily original or not. The way they use the language available to them, the way they use the literary resources there, the grammatical compositions, basically whatever you understand that defines a writing style, does that constitute originality? Maybe, perhaps, and the sparsity of someone like Hemingway as contrasted to someone like that's it, sorry, I had a brain fart there. But if we contrast something like Hemingway to Faulkner, are they original in their own right? And does anyone else that comes later stop being original because their writing voice is similar to what previous authors have done? I don't know. Maybe another point of originality may come from the composition of the book. So maybe someone that writes in a non-linear fashion, something completely crazy like James Joyce's Ulysses, in terms of the narrative and jumping from traditional narrative to theatre play style thing, to spending 50 pages without any punctuation. Is that an original thing, or are those more experimental writing that isn't necessarily an original concept by itself? I don't know. But anyway, these are my thoughts. This is what I wanted to put out there and share with you. And perhaps maybe what we need is someone to give us a fantasy story where the bad guys actually win. Maybe that would be the ultimate original piece of writing. Maybe really put us on the perspective of the bad guys actually winning. Maybe Grimdark is getting us that one step closer, where we have questionable, morally grey characters, and the next step is we are on the side of Sauron. I don't know. But yeah, just to wrap up, these are my thoughts. These are my ideas, my beliefs. I could be right, I could be wrong. I'm always open to conversation and debate. So please, please, please let me know what you think. Take loads and loads of care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.